Hey folks, gun skier on target training out here in Oregon. Before we get started, if you enjoy our content, please like, subscribe, and share. Please share, because if we can get more people coming to the channel and get more subscribers, we'll hit the 100,000 subscriber mark, which is the magic where the algorithm begins to help us bring you more content. Today I wanted to talk about a subject that has come up numerous times with subscribers, with students, with people I know. And often those people are interested in revolvers, and they've been told by some class of folks who somehow believes that revolvers have no benefit anymore. They're ancient technology, and if you use a revolver versus a semi-automatic, you're just really at a disadvantage. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. So here we have a Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0 metal pistol with its 17 round capacity in the magazine and 1 in the chamber. That gives you 18 rounds. So versus the Smith & Wesson 686 in 357 Magnum. What in the world would someone want this particular handgun, this revolver, for versus a larger capacity pistol? So today I'm going to talk to you about some of the reasons I think revolvers are really, really wonderful tools, and especially good for training and developing marksmanship skills. The 686, of course, is a double action revolver, which means when we press the trigger rearward, we are both cocking the hammer, which is one part of it, and then dropping the hammer, which is the double action, both cocks and drops the hammer. I can also shoot this gun in single action, where the trigger is only doing one thing. The trigger is releasing the hammer. Striker-fired guns, like the M&P 2.0 metal, have something that's kind of in between, which is to say the striker within the slide itself is already cocked essentially when you work the slide. When you release the trigger, that releases the striker. The thing you get with a semi-automatic pistol that is a striker fired or single action only is a consistent trigger press every single time. That press of the trigger is very consistent to this point. The slide cycles as it ejects around, and then the trigger and the sear resets, allowing you to release the striker again by pressing the trigger. One of the best advantages of training with a revolver is it will help you develop skills, mainly being able to keep your sights aligned on the target while pressing through a long, potentially heavier, most cases it is, double action trigger press. So can I press the trigger straight back along the axis of the bore without disrupting the sights? Are my sights staying aligned? And can I do this smoothly all the way through the cocking and releasing of the hammer? Well, if I can do that on a double action revolver, that means that when I go to any other type of pistol, semi-automatic pistol here, right, the process of aligning my sights, keeping a front sight focus, and pressing the trigger is the same, but, and this is where the advantage is, if I practice with a revolver, I'm able to very quickly develop the trigger management skill to press a trigger without disrupting the sight alignment and the sight picture. Fundamentally, that's what accuracy is. Now, some people go off on all these different directions, and that's fine. But really, if we set a pistol or a long gun or any type of firearm in a vise where it's not movable at all, and we can consistently apply the same trigger pressure every single time, we can begin to understand the gun's inherent accuracy. As humans, and I'll speak for myself, I may, in my attempt to slowly press the trigger straight back along the axis of the bore, disrupt that sight picture in some way where that has now caused the sights to be off the original sight picture and alignment that I had. The biggest benefit in shooting a double action revolver for a while is learning the nice, smooth press without disrupting the sight picture. And if you can do that on a revolver, a double action revolver, or as importantly, a double action semi-automatic pistol, you're going to be able to really have much better control of both trigger management and sights, sight alignment and sight picture. This is a Sig Legion P226 in 9mm, double action, first trigger press, single action after that, assuming that we had a round in the chamber, the round fired, there was an additional magazine. So that first trigger press, again, long and heavy through the cocking and dropping of the hammer. Slow press, decock, slow press, decock. And this is considerably heavy than the Smith 686, which has had some trigger work done. What most people do when they get this type of pistol, double action to single action, they'll insert a magazine, they'll of course work the slide, and then they're in single action. So they're working all their shots in single action. The best way to really learn to run this pistol is to transition between double to single action. So when we work on that, right, we'll fire one shot. As the gun cycles in recoil, we'll then press another shot right into that double to single action. And what I work with people when they're developing and using this type of platform is actually doing 2 shots. First 10 shots right out of the magazine, and every single one is an up-look press using double action, making sure your sights are aligned and the pistol does not move. The sights alignment and sight picture is exactly the same every single time as you press through that double action trigger. And then, so each time, bang, decock. Bang, decock. So I'm forcing myself to really work the double action. Then I will work pairs. So I will shoot 1, ride the reset back to the single action shot, then decock. So the bottom line, folks, a revolver can be a great training tool to your semi-automatic, and folks, revolvers should not be discounted simply because the fact that they have less capacity than many semi-automatic pistols. Now there are tactical versions. Smith makes an 8-round 357 Magnum. My contention as it relates to defensive use of firearms, would I rather have more ammunition than less? For sure. But most armed encounters, again, from a defensive standpoint, are ended with very few rounds. The key, after I've identified weapon capability and intent, and I've tried to egress, I can't get away. This is my philosophy, right? It's run, hide, fight is the last thing. But let's say I'm now to the point someone has a weapon they've identified. They said, I'm going to kill you. They clearly have the ability to do so. Weapon capability and intent. I've given them verbal commands to stop. If I have to shoot, which I prefer not to, but if I'm in fear for my life, then getting combat effective hits on target is way more important than how many rounds that you have. That being said, I'd rather have a 17-round capacity magazine or a 10 or 20. I'd rather have more. But if I could only deal with what I had, and in that case, battlefield pickup situation where a revolver is the only thing that's available, having 6 rounds and being able to get good hits and training enough that I can go right to point and right away break a shot and know that my hits are going to count, they're going to be in there, revolvers will work. Well, folks, I really appreciate each and every one of you. Again, if you like our content, please subscribe and share. And finally, keep an open mind. If you're genuinely interested in developing your skills, always be open to different viewpoints, different perspectives, different training techniques. Put that together. Go test it. Stress test it, right? Do some intense class training with people. Go to the range, compete, do all those things and figure out what works for you. If you shoot with a Weaver stance and you're able to get hits, awesome. If you're an isosceles shooter and that works for you, awesome. Every single technique and every single methodology has something to offer, and at the very least something to encourage you to think about your own technique, your own practice, your own skills, and ultimately your proficiency. Well, folks, that's all we got for today. Really appreciate you watching. Finally, and as always, stay safe.